Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Embracing What's Real. I'm your host, Helane Lipson. Embracing What's Real is the forum to explore the nature of reality and the impact our current belief systems have on our lives. All of our deep-rooted old beliefs are what many of us use to judge ourselves and our actions. Our current belief systems impact every single choice we make. So when we feed our spirit with new, empowering ideas about the meaning of life, the meaning of our lives change. We have a very, very special guest here with us today. Her full name is Inelia del Pilar Amara Avila, and she is known as Inelia Benz. She was born in Chile in 1966 to very politically active parents. Her parents fully supported and were close to President Allende, who was overthrown during a violent coup d'etat in 1973. What followed was the fracturing and devastation of her family. They all eventually left the country, and she grew up in England. During the 90s, she moved to Dublin, Ireland, where she went to college to graduate in communication studies. Throughout her stay in Ireland, she was an active Buddhist group leader, a practice she kept for 14 years. After that, she moved to various countries and has been involved in assisting light workers and light warriors on their path, as well as exploring and investigating what the dark side is doing on the planet. She's also been developing and investigating tools and practices which are quick and effective in raising the awareness and vibration of individuals and the planet. In January 2010, she received a request from Source to go public, which she's done. The first thing she did was to establish an information source at www.ascension101.com. At the same time, her behind-the-scenes work with other light workers and public figures continues. We have Inelia Benz in studio. Hello, Inelia. Hello, Inelia.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and I'm so happy you can be here with us today. You are just amazing, and your message has touched and awakened so many people. So I'd like to open by asking you to talk to us a little bit about your life's mission.
Basically, the mission that I came in with, and also this is the mission that millions of people came in with for the past few generations, is to raise the vibrational level of the planet and the collective, the human collective in particular. And this has been carried out by various methods. Excuse me. This has been carried out by various methods. Some people will will just live an ordinary life, but because they have a very high vibration coming from a dimension or planet which has a higher vibration, higher as in tone, right? Tone. Mm-hmm. It's not hierarchical, but the tone is higher. Just by living here on the planet and sticking around, they raise the vibrational level of the collective and the 3D existence. And others will have other gifts that they bring in. They're healers or artists or politicians or all sorts of different things that they carry out with a very high level of vibration, integrity, impeccability. And by being those themselves throughout their lives, they also raise the vibrational level of the planet. And then others also are called to become public and to talk about these things at a public level so that those who are just awakening or have awakened for a while and then are looking for tools or information can receive it. And basically I think that's what happened last January 2010. that I was actually putting out a lot of information out there through the internet and books, but my name was always very tiny. Most people didn't even know who wrote the things. And eventually, the request was basically to become public as Inelia Benz, for me to come forth and be myself, because this is a form of human communication. People really relate to another person, even if the person hasn't had the same evolutionary trajectory or whatever. They're still a human being, they're still a person, and so that's what the difference was. And the main message basically is it's time to take control and power back into ourselves and become our own custodians, the own custodians of our lives, our own custodians of our environment, our own steward of our existence in the 3D and in every other dimension. So, and recognizing that our higher self, source, and everything else, and everybody else, is actually us.
Yeah, well, you've really helped so many of us awaken and evolve. So, Inelia, many of us that incarnated here on Earth have lived many lifetimes, and we come back to resolve karmic issues. And unlike many of us, you've talked about having incarnated directly from oneness with a clear function. Can you clarify what it means to come directly from Source?
Yeah, basically, there is no evolutionary trajectory. Obviously, on the planet, while I've been here, I've been learning a lot of things, but everything I've learned has been to do with functioning within a human form or a human existence and being able to communicate at a human level, at every human level. And that has been my learning, and it's very specific to raising the vibrational level of this human collective. And so the difference basically is that I don't have any attachment to evolution, and I don't have any attachment to ascension or anything else, really, or any physical existence or any existence of any manner of form. I don't have a real, true sense of singular existence, even though I understand it and I experience it because I'm Inelia Benz. I have a physical body, I have a family, children, and husband, and all the other things. I don't actually identify with any of that, and I don't have any attachments that are in any way important, right? I don't put any importance on my existence whatsoever. And I find that a person and most of the people on the planet will have an evolutionary trajectory. They have a job, and that is to evolve. And they do that. And when I was looking at it, and somebody asked me recently, why? Why do we evolve, right? And when I looked at it, it appears that it's very much part of the integral forming of the universes, right? A person is as much part is the universe, is all existence and non-existence. But at the same time, the person is his or her own singularity. And as that person carries out that evolutionary path, which on this planet and this reality is linear time, it goes through linear time, but really it's just an expansion of awareness at every single level of existence. They grow and eventually become their own universe, which is inside the larger universe, and that's how the physical and experiential universes or existence expands infinitely, because each person has that job of evolving to that, becoming all, and at the same time becoming that singularity. I don't know if I'm explaining it right.
No, I mean it's very interesting, very intense.
Yeah,
I mean,
but for me that doesn't exist. You see, I'm not part of that job. My job is simply to come in, do this job, and then non-exist. You know, there isn't that work.
You truly exemplify the manner in which some are now detaching from their lower vibrational 3D identities and emerging into a higher frequency state in order to facilitate planetary awakening. Now, you offer tools that support personal evolution on your site, Ascension101.com. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the information and the exercises that you offer?
Yes. There's a lot of information. There's over 100 articles filled with information for people who are wanting to know more. If you click on the Tools tab, there's various meditations and exercises that are right there. You can just click on them and listen to them and do them. And the most important of all of the information that's on the site is right there. It's called the Fear Processing Exercise. And that's the one I ask everyone to do, because fear basically is the lowest vibration that we can experience in the human form. And by processing that fear, and processing doesn't mean get rid of it, okay? It doesn't mean that. Processing means freeing that energy and making that vibration free and higher, and reintegrating it back into ourselves or into oneness, which is the same thing. And by doing that, the average vibration of each person raises. So, for example, a person who is in depression will become content and eventually enlightened. You know, it's very much in that format. It's very simple. There's no mystery. By processing our lower vibrations and then infusing ourselves with higher vibration, we raise our average. And by raising each individual average vibration of every human being, we do the collective. We raise the average vibration of the collective, even if it's a tiny little sand bit, you know, little bit of sand. Eventually,
but that makes sense.
Yeah, so it raises. And then, of course, there's the Ascension 101 course. Now, that's for purchase, because it's for personal integration, for the person to learn about themselves. Again, all the information is still on the website for free, but this is a more dedicated, and it also supports, and it's an energy exchange of supporting the work that I'm doing, and also the staff that's working at Ascension 101 that keeps it online and keeps it running. We've had over 2 million page loads on the website, and that's a big server usage, right?
Yeah.
So that has to be paid for and everything. Unfortunately, we still live in a patriarchal financial structure, and eventually, of course, all these things will be available, and there will be no need for financial exchange, but there will be other types of energy exchange at a physical level. But if anybody wants to do the course really badly, but they can't afford it because they're still in that financial victim energy, what they can do is, again, go to the tools section, scroll down. There's an exercise called Reconnecting with the Spirit of Money exercise. Do that exercise for a week. And after the week, if you still don't have the funds, but you can see that you have benefited from that exercise, you can write to us with a pledge to complete the course for the collective, and you will receive a free copy of it. Now, we do have hundreds of requests, so I think the requests are 4 weeks, being processed 4 weeks behind at the moment. But don't get discouraged. You know, if you wait 4 weeks and you still haven't received it, write again, and eventually all the emails are responded to. All of them are answered.
Well, I loved your money exercise on your site. I want to, our ego and caring too much about what other people think, what other people think of us, seem to be what stands in the way of living our true spiritual purposes. And I'm wondering, what are some of the ways we can shift ourselves when we become consumed by our need to be right, or when we find ourselves stuck in conflictual or difficult situations?
I think that the underlying source of that ego reaction is actually fear, right? Fear of being rejected, fear of being unloved, fear of not being right, or fear that if we're not right, then we're unloved or are going to be cast out of heaven type thing, right? So really dig into when we get triggered like that, really dig in and ask ourselves, where is this fear? Where is the fear behind this? And then do the fear processing exercise on it.
Which is also wonderful. So if we didn't have this veil of forgetfulness being born as a soul in a body, what would we remember our mission was as beings of light on Earth?
Well, it very much depends, because beings of light, that has the duality of light and dark, right? Mm-hmm. And indeed, at the moment, there is a war going on between the two. So if a person identifies themselves with being a being of light, then it's very probable that what they came here to do was to raise the vibrational level of the planet. And they can do that simply by doing the fear processing exercise. Oh, and by the way, when an individual does the reconnecting with the spirit of money exercise, they're also healing the collective energy exchange system, the financial system, basically. They're healing that at a collective level, at a social level.
Interesting, introducing it as elemental.
Yeah, yes. And then, of course, a person might have a very distinct drive, for example, to heal, or a very distinct drive to become an artist, or become a lawyer, or become an accountant, or become a doctor, or a healer in other forms, or a writer, or a gardener, or to become a father, or become a mother, or all sorts of different things, or even like things that we wouldn't normally think of being a path to raising the vibrational level, such as driving a truck, or taxi drivers, or a garbage collector, you know. But amazingly, an individual who is in absolute tune with themselves, no matter what job they take on the planet, they infuse their whole environment and that particular branch of profession or work or role with their higher energy, and it changes it for the entire human species as well.
Wow. So if we ask to evolve at an accelerated rate, and we ask Spirit of the Highest to assist us at a greater capacity, and we're doing the work to release our karma and release our deep-rooted fears, what are some of the physical symptoms we might experience related to ascension?
Yes, and well, let's first of all look at why there are physical symptoms. The reason why there are physical symptoms is because the being and the physical body are not actually the same being. Our physical body, yes, they're part of us when we created our physical bodies, but the physical body is actually its own being. It's an independent being. It has its own intelligence, its own sense of identity. And when we start raising our vibrational level at a soul or spirit person being, who is immortal, who is eternal, the vibration becomes higher. And if we haven't done the work at a physical level to raise the physical vibrational level, there's a dissonance between the two. And that's when we get what's called ascension symptoms. And the best way to address those are to actually process physical fears, right? Process fears, for example, of spiders, of heights. All the things are actually physical fears. And then also do a physical detox, like a cleansing. So dedicate, say, 1 day a week, or maybe if it's the first time you've done it, try and do by baby steps a physical cleansing, starting with salt baths or changing your water to distilled water or other things. And there'll be people saying, but you can't drink distilled water. Research it and see what information about it resonates with you. Obviously, there's loads of methodologies out there for detoxing our body, so you have to really search and look and see what resonates with your own body and do that one.
Yeah, well, in one of your articles, you talked about foods we should stay away from. You even included onions and garlic to have a lighter spiritual body during this period of ascension.
Yes. Yes.
Should people be vegetarian?
Well, nobody should be or shouldn't be anything, right? Everybody has to choose. The vegetarian paradigm is good for some people and not very good for others. So really you have to tap into your own body and see where it's there. Now, the problem with meats at a modern society is that they're filled with chemicals. And also the animals that we are consuming that come from the supermarkets have had a most horrendous life. And that fills that meat with energy that's suffering a very low vibrational meat energy in the meat, right? And then the slaughter process also very, very painful, fearful, horrible, and all that is infused in the meat. And when you put that meat into your body, at a physical level, you're putting all those energies into your body as well. Okay, so there are people, and I know at least one person who purposely goes to buy that type of meat because her job is actually to consume. When she consumes that very low vibration and suffering and all the connection it has with that being, that body being that was the cow or pig or whatever, when she puts it into her own body, it transmutes into light, and then it directly connects with the other being that she consumed, and helps that being come out of that victim energy and into a very happy type, or helps it in its own evolution, right? It raises its vibration.
Wow.
But that's a really dedicated, very hard job to do. I personally cannot do it. If I put something like that in my physical body, I get sick, right? I cannot do it. I can't do that job. And most of us, I think, are in the same boat, that we can't really go there. We can't really do that job. And for the rest of us, if we can't really give up meat because we enjoy it or we like it or whatever, or we feel or believe that it's a necessary part of our diet, then what we can do is search out and look for meat that has been happy, like happy cows, grass-fed, organic, humane slaughterhouses, and do your research, and those things are out there. Okay, so look for that. Take a drive into the country and buy eggs from and chickens from a farmer who has them running around happy. It's there. It's accessible. Now, if we live in a city, it's harder to get to, but they still have stores who sell these things. We pay extra, of course. So, that will make, instead of eating steak every day, we might only be able to afford to eat steak twice a week. But it will be the right type of energy steak. It won't be the wrong one. Now, if you feel inspired to become a vegetarian, then yes, it will help at a physical level to make this physical more subtle. And then, of course, because we're still ingrained with a belief system that we need nourishment, we need eating, we need certain vitamins and minerals and protein, then, of course, we have to replace all those with more friendly types, such as whey protein or soy protein or whatever it is that is organic and pure, and then use those and try it and see what results you have, because there isn't a rule of thumb saying, if you become a vegetarian you're more enlightened. There is no connection. There is no connection between the two. But to some people, they have like a natural vegetarian nature. They have a natural one. And one of them, in fact, is my own daughter. When she was born, she breastfed, of course, but as soon as I started giving her food, if I did the rice, the very mushed up rice or avocado or vegetables, she would eat it. Like, we, all babies, you see, they stick their little fingers and they try to suck them and everything like that. And when I introduced meat into her diet, and I mushed it, like it was like a puree, she grabbed it, put it into her mouth, and she spat it out. She refused to have it, and this was a tiny little 6 months old, or I think by the time, she was 9 months old by the time I introduced meat. But she refused it, and I thought, whoa, that was heavy stuff, So I tried her with some vegetable, the same meal without the meat, and she ate it. And she was so happy, and she's a natural vegetarian. It's a natural vegetarian. And I've met other people, and she's extremely fit. She's, she's extremely fit, very strong, very healthy, and she doesn't eat meat.
Wow.
But others, for example, myself, I struggle, and I have to look for happy cows somewhere, and every once in a while I have a steak, even though I can only eat a tiny little bit of it. So I'm not a vegetarian myself, and I can feel that probably some individual will cringe and say, how could you not be a vegetarian? But it's all about the physical body and what the physical body needs, right?
Yeah. Well, that was very interesting. But I want to change. I want to talk about actually something very exciting and near and dear to your heart these days, and that is creating a global Ascension Center. I heard you talk about your visit to James Gilliland's Ascetti Ranch in Washington State as something of an inspirational and motivational piece in moving you toward your long-term goal that you've always known that you were meant to create. So I'd like to hear what you envision for the center and where you are in this process.
Yes, the center it will be looked after by a trust, and it's going to be kept in trust for humanity in perpetuity. That's the aim of the center at a collective level. So even though I'm facilitating it and I'm taking full responsibility for it, it's not Inelia Benz's center, right? And we already have people who are becoming part of the team, of creative team, to make it happen. And we've had many people who donate towards its creation. So it's a co-creative process, and that's part of it. Part of it becoming a co-creative process that's out in the public, completely transparent, so people can see it and can then duplicate it. And basically, what it is and where it's going to be, it's extremely fluid right now. The main, or the hub, the first center, the hub, it doesn't necessarily, it's the first step. So that doesn't necessarily have to be in a big piece of land. It could be actually in a house somewhere. And then that will facilitate the more retreat-like center, which will have land, which will have its own inner structure. And the aim is for reconnecting Gaia's energy into the 3D human experience. And the center itself is going to be charged with Source and Gaia energy. And then everybody who comes in will have that intention of bringing that energy into their lives and into their environment, and then duplicating it or replicating it elsewhere. And there's already hundreds of people who have begun and who said, yes, this is the go-ahead that I was waiting for, and have begun their own centers, some of them in their own homes. Some of them have land, and they've already started organizing those. And there's a healing center which will be attached to the Global Ascension Center here in Northern California, and that's also started. So yeah, it's already begun, and it's awesome. The information again is in the website, and there's a tab called Center. You click there, and you'll get some information. And also, we've started a new website called the Global Ascension Center. .com, and there's more information there and how people can become involved in it. And basically, it's a co-creative, very public process, and it will be the main energy is for us as a species to become custodians of the planet at this and other dimensional levels. So each of us, as we become custodians or stewards of our own lives, and then we incarnated, as it were, in the center, and all the other centers that people are creating, then we become custodians. Can you imagine us as a human species becoming such that we become the custodians of this planet at every dimensional level? And then perhaps we are actually, and maybe that's what our aim is as a species, not only to become custodians of this planet, but maybe, perhaps, we are the custodians of the physical universe.
Wow. It's so exciting. It's actually so exciting. You know, when I listened to your fundraiser yesterday, it's exciting. I actually can envision it, and when you did that collective exercise, it was very moving. It was very, very powerful.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was so powerful.
I know.
So powerful.
I look at your Facebook page a lot to see what you're posting, and a while back I saw on your Facebook wall this video where Princess Nakamaru of Japan talked about the 3 days of darkness that's supposed to take place on December 21st, 2012. And the video got quite a reaction. And so I want to ask you, is there literally 3 days of darkness? And what is expected to happen in these 3 days, and how do you see this turning out for mankind?
Well, when I tap into it, the decision still hasn't been taken whether it's going to happen at a collective level, but because, of course, everything that happens, everything we experience here as individuals, as well as our human experience as a collective, we agree on that, right? So we take a collective agreement of whether we want to experience something, and the collective agreement on whether we want to experience it, the 3 days of darkness, it hasn't been taken yet. It's still up in the air. We haven't decided as a collective whether we want to go through it or not. Now, the nature of it, I actually don't know what the nature of it is, whether it is a sense darkness of visuals, or communication darkness with other individuals, or whether it is a somebody mentioned it could be a magnetic darkness. So I honestly don't know. But what I do know is that there are two camps, as it were, trying to one of them, which includes Gaia, by the way, does not want it to happen, right? Because it will actually accelerate the division, separation of the two camps on the planet. This human species has already, at an energetic level, been divided in two. So we have already been divided into. We have divided ourselves in two. One half, or no, it's not actually half, it's different percentages, but one side of the human species now will continue having a dual existence somewhere else. And the other percentage who have decided to have a new experience will continue with Gaia in her new journey of expansion of awareness and possibilities. So Gaia really does not want this human species to have these 3 days of darkness, because it will make the physical division of the two sides of the human species accelerate. And some of it could be quite brutal and quite heavy on both sides, right? Some of them, but many human beings want it to happen because they're really tired of it. The elongated transition from duality into empowerment. And there's others who want it to accelerate, because then they will have more people through fear while these 3 days are happening and they're still asleep. The fear will plunge them into duality experience, so they'll have more of a harvest, as it were, if that happens. And then there's Gaia and another group of humans who want it to be a very gentle, smooth transition and gelling of the new realities that will take 2 or 3 generations to fully manifest as people die their natural life, or live their natural lives and die a natural death, and then simply do not reincarnate here again. Right? They reincarnate somewhere else. So yeah, it's all out there still, and we haven't really decided as a species.
Wow. So like when I've read quite a bit about this new Earth theory, where the Earth, while ascending, we're inevitably ascending from this third dimensional reality. In the new Earth theory, the Earth literally separates into 2 Earths, and one is at a 4th dimension and the other at a 5th. So is this new Earth theory linked to what you were saying about the 3 days of darkness, like thrusting us into this quickly? Like, is this new Earth theory true?
Well, it already exists.
Oh.
The 2 Earths already exist. At an energetic level, there has been a separation already. But I don't think the description of 2 Earths is really correct, because Earth and Gaia we see as one entity, or the body and the spirit of that symbiotic relationship. And they have chosen to have an empowered experience. And they're just waiting for their children to join in with her to continue on that empowered experience. Now the other quote-unquote Earth really won't be Earth. It will be another thing altogether. It will be another completely different thing, creation.
Okay.
But even now, for example, most people think it's going to be split at a physical level, and yeah, it could happen that way very, very quickly. But the transition that has been happening has been very gradual and slow, and we already exist within different realities. Somebody, for example, who's awake will have a very specific type of experience. They will be able to manifest. They have synchronistic events. They have a huge support from their environment, and somebody or getting there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody who isn't is still struggling, still in deep fear, and they drink and they watch TV, they take drugs, and all those things. And the two, when they meet and talk about things, they have nothing in common, or they have very little in common. And often, very often, one of them cannot see the other one's reality. They cannot see the other person, but they will see a version of the other person through their own lenses, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's 2 different realities, completely different realities happening.
And right now. So, many of us have heard you refer to the powers that were, some of the darker forces in the world that operate from low-frequency energies. Can you tell me a little bit about what's known as the Illuminati? I'd like to hear your take on what's going on with this.
Well, the term, the powers that were, of course, is not mine. I borrowed it from somebody else. Somebody said it during an interview, and I thought, oh, my God, I love that term, and I've adopted it. The Illuminati, of course, are the manifestation of our collective desire to experience a dual existence, right? So they're basically beings who volunteered to and wanted to have that power over others experience, and they very much don't want to give it up, right? Mm-hmm. So those are one of the groups in the planet who wanted very much for the world to split in 2, so they could have somewhere to go with millions of their subjects. Mm-hmm. And there was an agreement by the rest of humanity for that to happen for 2 reasons. I mean, let's look. There's no better or worse. We have to move away from thinking that one path is superior to another. They're simply different, and they're simply not compatible, right? Mm-hmm. An empowered new experience that Gaia and many, many people listening to this show want to have is not better, than a dual power over others or service for others experience. Right? It's not better. It's simply different, and it's not compatible. The two are not compatible to exist in the same time space. So that's why they're moving on and then leaving this reality and going somewhere else, right? And how is that reflected in our world, in our own reality? Well, everything will become clear. There will be no longer lies or mysteries. And people will wake up, basically, and they will say, okay, I understand, because we create reality through agreement. Now, when we are asleep, we make those agreements unconsciously, and if sometimes we refuse to make an agreement either way, so somebody else makes it for us, makes a decision for us, and that's a dual, sleepy reality that we experience. The only difference of an empowered person is that they become conscious that they're making agreements, and then they choose at a conscious level to make them, right? Mm-hmm. And they consciously start creating agreements. So, yeah, the Illuminati are simply individuals who want to have a very specific type of experience and path. And they are, at the moment, extremely afraid. They've lost, they wanted it all, and that's part of the nature of duality. It wants to engulf. Part of darkness is want to engulf and put light out. And part of the nature of light is to disintegrate darkness and make it go away. So the two are, not really compatible to exist in the same location, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes when I'm watching videos or reading articles about HAARP or Monsanto or Halliburton or even the Federal Reserve, I could feel, and so many people can feel so agitated and also powerless. Do you see these entities so harmful to mankind disintegrating? And is there something we as individuals or groups should be doing to bring their practices to a halt?
Yes, as Gaia and the Planetary Council, and part of my job here is to give them two options, and we can do this internally. When we look at the situations and we look at those things, first of all, we process our fear and our sense of helplessness, and then we look at them without judgment. Without judgment. This is very important, right? Because they're not bad, they're not good, they're simply different and non-compatible. And we tell them, okay, you have two choices, because what you're doing, or your victim energy or your aggressor energy, you cannot have that experience here on this planet anymore. So you have two options. You can either raise your vibrational level and become compatible with this new reality, or you can leave. Right? So that's the two options they have. And we can do that in our personal lives, even through things that are happening in our lives. Instead of reacting to them at a very kind of unconscious level through fear or anger, we can look at situations and people who are really into the aggressive victim reality in our lives, and at an energetic level talk to their higher self and say to them, I understand that you wanted to have this experience here on this planet and in my life even, but I do not agree with it, and you're no longer welcome to have that experience here on this planet. You can receive energy, the light and love from Source, and then you step out of the way and allow that become a conduit for that to come through to them, so that they can have a choice, right? And then allow light and that energy of divine consciousness to decide what to do with that person, not to put any colors into it. So, for example, if somebody's really sick or has cancer, or somebody's into drugs, or somebody's trying to beat you up or whatever, then obviously if you're in physical danger, get out of there.
Yeah.
And defend yourself at a physical level. But if it's something that's long-term, then really step out of the way and allow Source energy to come through and do what it thinks, what it knows it's best for that person, without putting, but I want that person to heal, or I want that person to stop hurting others, or whatever. really allow the energy to come through and allow that higher self and the other person's higher self to decide what's best. Yes, you can put your intention. Okay, I'm going to facilitate this, but I would really like it because my agreement is that this person gets better or whatever, you know. You can put that intention, but then you release it, right? You just you cast your vote, and then you release it.
So this ascension process, we are evolving, though. This is a period when we are evolving. I've read on your site between 2012 and 2017. What during those years will be happening to the human collective and the Earth itself in that linear timeline?
That's the start of the end of the cycle. Basically, this cycle of ascension began many, many years ago, probably over 100 years ago at a physical level, and at a very, very in-your-face level, it really took hold in the 60s. So people who were born in the 40s were ready and willing and ready for this work to happen. Some of them even were born in the 30s and were ready to begin this shift work, right? But it got hijacked. However, the acceleration cannot be stopped. So basically what's been happening is that the energy, the vibration has been going higher and higher at a physical. The Gaia has already shifted into the new paradigm, and she's waiting for us as a collective to make that shift. And she's very patient. And she doesn't have judgment, right? There's no judgment of right or wrong. She's just calling those who want to have that experience with her to join her. And the reason why I have the 2012, 2017 dates on it is because that's when it really becomes highly, highly vibrational energy here on the planet, and a lot of work and transformation is going to happen during those years. But it's like it's like the gelling of the new paradigm at a physical level.
Interesting. Now, you talk a lot about extraterrestrials as our cousins, which would mean that there are relatives.
Yeah.
I want to ask what you mean by this, and when do you think the real truth will come out about ETs and UFOs?
Okay, so our cousins, both because in oneness we are really all one, we're not separate, right? And also because many species from other planets and other dimensions have seeded DNA material into our own species. So we are actually genetically and dimensionally connected to them at a very close family relationship type thing. And when is the truth coming out? Okay, so the truth is already out. There's already proof and information at both alternative media level as well as governmental level. If there's already all sorts of information out there about the existence of other beings. Now, the informational flow from the government depends very much on the government in each country. Some governments have already released all the information they have about UFOs, ETs, contact, and everything else, and others haven't. And but basically, it's trickling into the human species collective very slowly. And there are those who are trying to manipulate it and try to put a fear layer onto it. And others are just stating it as fact. And of course, there's all sorts of different species. There's hundreds of them presently around the planet looking in and taking part in this shift. And of course, there's an infinite amount of them at the dimensional level and the universal level. So basically, the ones that we are concerned with are the ones who are around the planet and stuff. And yes, there's some of them who are benevolent, and some of them are malevolent, and there's everything in between. So it's basically like stepping into a city, and then you have areas where there's hundreds of, or some cities have millions of people living there, and some of them are what we might call good people, and some of them are what we might call bad people. Some of them we might call sleepers. Some of them we might call enlightened and awake, or whatever. You know, we have everything, and it's a neighborhood of the galactic neighborhood is exactly the same. So yeah, some of them. But you know,
I heard you just say that our DNA was altered. You know, and that I have read that we were supposed to be having, or we're supposed to, well, we are growing or hoping to have a 12-stranded DNA, but now we're only functioning with a double helix. What do we have to do to help our DNA become what it originally was?
Okay, so with regards to DNA, the DNA is not static. It's continuously changing, moving, and expanding. And it's not that our DNA was altered as such, but some of it was switched off or disconnected from us, and some of it was added to us. And basically, DNA is multi-dimensional. I don't know if this is the case for all species, but I know that human DNA is multi and ultra-dimensional. So the DNA we use at a physical level is only the tiny little section of what it really is. At a 3D level, sorry, I should say. DNA at a physical level it's enormously complex and much more than we can actually see or experience. It contains all of our subtle bodies, energy bodies, and all the multidimensional bodies. Bodies mean something material, even if it's a very subtle type of energy material. And then, of course, there is the power of the being over the DNA. We can actually alter our DNA through choice and agreement. We can do it ourselves, individually. We don't need anybody else to do it for us. We can do it ourselves.
By actually envisioning it, expanding?
Yes, you can. That's a method, yes. That's definitely a method you can use. And ultimately, it's just a decision and an intention. Interesting. And then all sorts of things will come up to be processed and looked at and detoxified in order for you to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say, you inspire me. And I am always looking for new videos you make and new articles you write. Who are some of the people that you admire and follow? Like, who inspires you?
Well, I don't follow anybody because following kind of has the energy of not being able to see anybody else. But I am an audience of many people. An audience can come in and out of different auditoriums or cinemas or whatever, right? And choose and pick and move and listen and admire many, many people. And I think that that's the case for us, right? And I admire and I listen to various individuals. There's so many. I wouldn't know where to begin, but if you're interested in that type of thing, you can go to my website, and I have a links part underneath, and some of the people are listed there. And of course, I'm very bad with authors as well, so sometimes I remember their work, but sometimes I don't remember their names. So definitely people like, the lady who wrote Women Who Dance with the Wolves or something like that. I can't remember.
I've heard of the book. I don't know the person.
Yeah.
On the top of my head.
Yeah. And then there's fiction writers that I very much admire, like Terry Pratchett. And there's one series that I'm reading right now that I think is absolutely amazing. I mean, this person was suggested to me through another a course that I'm giving with other people. She's called Mary McNabb, and she suggested these books, and I thought, oh my God, I'm reading them right now, and it's just amazing how they really go very much into depth about the construct of a God reality, or a reality where we need permission to do everything, including exist, right? And the author, I'm trying to remember, Philip Pullman, that's it. Okay. So there's three books he wrote. Golden Compass, The Subtle Knife, and The Amber Spyglass. That's right. And these books, it's better to read them in order. There's three books, part of one really. It's one story, and he's just really puts out there this information about how amazingly constructed our reality is. So I would suggest for people, if they want to read, if they love novels and stuff, and this is like a fantasy type of novel with demons and witches and stuff like that, to get those books, because they will actually really illustrate a constructed reality very, very well. He did a marvelous job.
Oh, interesting.
And of course, I love the work by Dr. Brian Weiss, and all his work that he did on reincarnation. And how people, and his methodologies are so simple, so quick, and so fabulous. I love his work. And when I met him very, very briefly at one of his conferences, I was like a cheerleader, It's like, oh my God, I love your work. Awesome, Arthur. And his spirit is so awesome too. He's a wonderful person. And who else? Inspired me in life, Tina Turner. Freddie Mercury. There's so many people.
That's a very. I love them all. And Dr. Brian Weiss. That was, I about 15 years ago. That's when I started reading his books too, and I love them. Yeah. And Freddie Mercury, of course.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, and Dr. Deepak Chopra, also awesome person. Fantastic teachings. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. So this will give me some stuff to look into, and some of our listeners. And I know we are running out of time. I wanted to know if there's anything you'd like to share with our listeners on a closing note.
Yes, to remember that any sense of helplessness or doubt that we might have about others or a situation is really a reflection of ourselves, our doubt in ourselves. So that doubt in ourselves is part of the program from the powers that were to stop us as a species, and also basically as us, each individual self, realizing that we are an infinitely powerful, unlimited being who can do anything in all dimensions, including this third-dimensional world. And to get there is just expanding our awareness. We process our fear. We can reconnect with Source. And all the tools are there. You've mentioned the Ascension101.com site, and it's all there. All that information is there. Go and use it. And if you don't resonate with it, know that there's other information out there. Do the keywords, do the search, and find the information. And then, do it yourself. Sit down every day for at least 20 minutes of silent meditation and reconnect, because you really have access to all this information yourself. But sometimes it's easier, like I do. I like to research too, because sometimes I get information and I like to validate or check it out with others. And both information that comes in, I always check it out. So become your own sovereign, become your own authority, and really listen to things that whether they resonate with you or not, and really listen to that, because that's your compass, that's your ultimate authority in life. That's your higher self telling you, yes, go this way, learn that. No, don't do that. Don't listen to that person. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So maybe some of you will, that's what your higher self is saying. Don't listen to Inelia Benz. And then if that's the case, then don't, right?
Wow.
Because we really have to listen to our higher self. We really do.
Well, to me, you are such an inspiration, and to many, many, many of us here, an inspiration to us all. So how can our listeners reach out to you and find out about your upcoming events or even donate to the center?
They can go to ascension11.com. The articles, I try to put at least 2 or 3 articles there per month. And there's also a newsletter. Click on the newsletter tab and register, because whenever I have new articles or information, events, Q&As, or anything like that, I will send them out in the newsletter. And to donate, there's a donate button. All the donations now that are coming in are going directly towards the Global Ascension Center. It used to be, before the Global Ascension Center was publicly announced, donations were given to support my work here on the planet. So they were coming to me to support myself and my team get from equipment and other things that we needed to get the information out there. And now all the donations are going towards the Global Ascension Center. They are not tax deductible, okay? That's really important to remember. They're not tax deductible because we're not a charity. So you still have to pay tax on it. We still have to pay full tax on it. But the funds that are going through that website and also the Global Ascension Center website are all going to be used for the co-creative process of manifesting the Global Ascension Center here in this planet.
Oh, that's so exciting. It is so exciting. And I am just so happy you were able to join us today, Inelia. Thank you so much.
Yeah, me too. It's been an absolutely wonderful conversation. Thank you. Thank you for
facilitating. I've gotten so much out of this. So thank you, and thank you all for tuning in to Embracing What's Real. You can join me Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be interviewing Jed Schlockman, a holistic counselor and author of the book Consciousness, Creation, and Existence, A Guide to the Grand Adventure. On Wednesday, April 4th, at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be talking to James Gilliland about life at the Ascenti Ranch and his latest UFO encounters. And on Monday, April 9th, Diane Hock, the founder of the Food Evolution, will join us. For information about all of our upcoming shows, come see me at my website, www.insightsbyhelane.com, www.insightsbyhelane.com. Thank you again for tuning in to Embracing What's Real. Till we meet again, love, light, and peace to all.